You're watching TVC Breakfast. The first institution established by God after creation is marriage.
But intolerance and many vices in the 21st century is threatening this sacred institution. Couples are advised to be cautious in their relationship and not become part of the statistics and the high rate of divorce that is fast creeping into the Nigerian marriage system.
What is responsible for the high rate of divorce? Well, joining us now is a lawyer, Olutubosun Oshifora. Good morning. Thank you for joining us on TVC Breakfast.
Pleasure.
Now, we know that over the years, growing up, divorce was something you rarely heard about. And then suddenly, it seems our philosophy about marriage began to change. One wonders what was different then, or how that philosophy, the changes were. Is it about the fact that we no longer value the institution marriage, or something is just not right in the air?
We still do, but I can tell you confidently that two things are responsible. Number one, education. Number two, income, increase in income.
Education.
Education, how do you mean?
Yes, all right, I'll stress it a little bit. If you look at our mothers, most of them were not educated. Most of them were subject to our dads. I'm talking about our generation now. And most of them didn't know much about anything. They came from a background where just go to your husband's house, no matter how much maltreatment you get, stay there because of the kids. Now, the average woman or the average lady in marriage is not taken to that line. Now, then, let me take you back a little bit. If you look at the average father, talking about our parents, the father is richer, the father is more educated, the father is more qualified. But these days, you have women more qualified, you have women earning more, so they can assert themselves more than our mothers did. Now, so based on education, based on income, they can stand up to the man. Some of them are even more well-off than the man. Now, so if you're going to bring anything that your father meted out on your mother, the woman in this generation is not going to stand up to that. I tell you confidently because I do. In fact, I was looking at the statistics for divorce in Nigeria, and I feel this is not correct because I practically do strictly divorce cases now, and I was looking at the files yesterday. Between January, first week in January 2018, and up to yesterday, I've been involved in 42 cases of divorce, and 70% were instituted by the women.
So what exactly is the cause of this? Like she said earlier, we not seen this in the last generation where our mothers and our fathers were married for longer times. At that time, sometimes you see someone who said is married for 50 years, and you wonder how they coped.
My parents were married for 52 years. There's a paradigm shift now. I said education. Then there's the Western influence as well. Now divorce is fashionable. In our parents' days, you know, they tell you stay there because of your kids, and you will do anything. But these days, the average, you can always walk away from a marriage. You can take care of your kids by yourself.
So that is why I asked earlier, is it because we no longer respect that institution, the sacredness of that institution? Because most of our parents at the time, whatever they were going through, they also still, some of them still respected the sacredness of that institution. Is that waning?
I would say some of them couldn't stand on their own. The average mother, apart from those who were working, the average mother couldn't stand on her own financially. That's one. Then culturally, I mean, in Africa, divorce is not something that they just say. You don't want to be pointed out.
They're stigmatized.
Yeah, they're stigmatized. That's it. But now it's fashionable. Now people come out and tell you, I'm a baby mom, I'm a single mother, I'm this, I'm that, and that, and nobody frowns at it.
What are the implications for the next generation? Because when people find it fashionable now, how much of a threat is it to the marriage or institution? It's a big threat.
It's a big threat. In fact, it's so bad now that someone came to my office a few months ago and said that they said you can help me get divorced within the shortest time possible. I said, no, it's subject to the court. I said, okay, what is your story? She said, my husband didn't come home for 2 weekends. And I'm like, this is not a basis for divorce.
According to the law, what is the basis?
There are so many. You have, the law we use is the Matrimonial Causes Act. Though it's an archaic law, but I mean, it's still what we have and what we manage. Section 15.2 talks about fundamental, you must prove that the marriage has broken down irretrievably. Okay. And in proving that, there are a few things you have to showcase. Is in section 15.2 A to H. One, you say that if, the basis, if the husband has refused to sleep with the wife
consistently for about 2 years.
No, not 2 years, for a reasonable period of time. Okay. Then when you can come desertion, 2 years also if your partner has gone away, and so many
things. Anyway, this conversation will still continue, but we need to leave it at this point. Olutubosun, sorry. Oshifora, thank you for your time on TVC Breakfast. Let's look at the legality on when we talk about divorce. You have been handling cases of divorce for some time now. On what grounds can people seek for divorce? Yes,
the laws governing matrimonial issues is the Matrimonial Causes Act. And the part that deals specifically with divorce is section 15, or section 15.2 precisely. In fact, the Supreme Court says in a plethora of cases that once you can prove one of the elements in section 15.2 A to H, then just one. You can, and those things, you have desertion there if your partner has left you for 1 year. Yeah. You have the 2-year rule as well. If somebody has left you for 2 years and you go and file for divorce and is not opposing, you have also the 3-year rule if both partners have lived apart for
But some have said all of this is not holistic because there are other issues surrounding the grounds which people also seek divorce.
No, the Supreme Court says once you can prove one of all the things, in fact, there is lack of consummation. There are instances where people marry and for whatever reason they refuse to sleep with themselves. And one of the parties can actually come. And then there's intolerable behavior as well.
Domestic violence.
Domestic violence is not there.
Do we say that it's not there yet?
Intolerable behavior can't it be seen as domestic violence?
That is what you expect. But the law is a 1970 law. Perhaps they didn't emphasize because the part that talks about intolerable behavior takes you to section 16 of the same MCA, Matrimonial Causes Act, and it states what intolerable behavior is. Rape, if the person has committed rape, sodomy, and, but it didn't bring in domestic violence.
But in all of the cases that you have handled so far, what is that one thing that seems to unify all of them?
How do you mean? That
seems to have run through. Yes, what's common?
What's common? Let me see. Most times desertion. Most times one partner leaves, the other one stays in the house, and that's what you have most times. But what underscores their separating or separation, I've seen a lot of people don't really understand what marriage is all about. Because you see ladies come and say, my husband has not been responsible. The husband too comes and says, my wife has been this, has been that. And lately, people marry more for the grams, the Instagram and social media.
So invariably, the institution of marriage, the reason for the institution of marriage is not really understood amongst this, the generation that we find ourselves.
Our generation and the coming one, I don't think they have an understanding.
So what is the implication?
The implication
on the future of this institution?
The implication is that one, we're desecrating the institution, and at the end of the day, the children will suffer for it. Because, it is common knowledge that it takes two. In fact, almost all the cases, Supreme Court will tell you that what is appropriate is for a child to grow up in a family. But the law has even tilted that, because most times when it comes to issue of custody, that comes up. And it says that once maternal care is available, that's why they always give the child to the mother, even if the father is rich. In fact, the court says in a lot of cases, I don't want to go into that, maybe another day, it says that if the man is rich, he should give the money to the woman, so that, because it's just the motherly instinct helps better in nurturing a child. The law recognizes that two people will take care of a child, but when it comes to who do we give it to, particularly minors or, you know, those ones that are very, very small, then you give it to the mother. Even Section 71 of the same Matrimonial Causes Act says the same thing, that when it comes to issue of custody and welfare, that the child's, the consideration should be, the consideration for the child is paramount. And most times it leans and tilts towards the mother. The only exception will be where there's abuse from the mother or she's not mentally capable of taking care of the child. That's when you now begin to consider the father. But we've also seen funny cases where absentee mothers, runaway mothers, you can't even find them, so you don't have a choice than to leave it. But at the end of the day, divorce always have implication on the children.
Absolutely. We'll definitely continue the conversation. Thank you, Olutubosun Oshifowara, for your time.
My pleasure.